Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Thomas, and I discuss my near-death experience, the things I learned, and the things I think you should know. So, thank you for watching my video, for the nice comments, and for subscribing to my channel. You are a gift and the reason I came back from my near-death experience to share what I had seen and what I learned. So today I was inspired to talk to you about what it has been like to cope with my near-death experience. It has been about a year now, and it has been definitely a unique challenge. There's been much pain, agony, and despair, while at the same time it has been a huge blessing and has had a profound impact on me and my family. So today I'm going to be reading you an essay, so if I'm looking at my notes or looking away from the camera, that's why. So let's begin. So my near-death experience and the way it occurred was very traumatic and has taken a lot of psychotherapy, inner work, meditation, and prayer to heal. But I won't go into that now, as I could do a whole video on just that. Shortly after my near-death experience, I met a fellow NDE survivor that has had 40 or 50 years to go down all the rabbit holes that come with a near-death experience. She taught me that my near-death experience was like a bomb going off and not only affected me, but affected my family and the community. I am so thankful that I met her because she taught me how to meditate, taught me advanced Kundalini yoga, and introduced me to Kabbalah. She taught me to develop a daily spiritual practice, and thanks to her, I meditated every day for a year or so. My near-death experience was a sort of psychic, spiritual, and emotional awakening. After my near-death experience, I continued to have visions as well as hearing things, and had emotions that I would later come to learn were not my own. I continued to end up in the emergency room because I thought I was going crazy or I was dealing with some sort of psychosis. There were a couple nights that I was terrified because there was this sort of rain falling through the ceiling and it had a strong chemical smell that burned my nose. I hid under everything I could find and hid under my blankets, but the rain fell through anything I could cover myself with, and I couldn't hide from the smell. I ended up in the emergency room the next day because I thought I was going crazy. And that was the least of my worries, as I thought there were these evil beings coming to get me. After my near-death experience, I became aware of both positive and negative entities that exist throughout our world. I would hide barricaded in my apartment with a futon shoved up against the door. To protect me from these beings, I would have visions of coming to kill me. I would lay in bed with my heart racing and 911 queued up on my phone in case, and with a butcher's knife in my hand ready to fight for my life should these evil beings come to get me. I would hear them conspiring to kill me in my head and even see them in my mind's eye coming down the hallway to my residence. I was acutely aware now that there are truly evil people and entities in this world. However, there were some truly strange and beautiful occurrences that would occupy my mind as well. The strange occurrences and unworldly things that would occur in the days and weeks following my NDE would cement the near-death experience in reality, reassuring me that my angels were not only real, but were with me at all times. I had seen that Sarah, my guardian angel, was so much more than just a guardian. I had seen that we had a relationship on the other side, where true life exists, and that I had left her when I came here to Earth, and left her again to come back to share what I had seen, as well as to finish what I had come here to accomplish. One evening, about a week after my near-death experience, I was crying unconsolably because I missed Sarah so much, and I was wondering why I had chosen to come back to this reality that now felt dreamlike. At the end of my bed was a battery charger with a green light. As I looked at it through tear-filled eyes, I noticed that another light seemed to come out of the tiny LED. I stared intently at the light and asked myself if I was imagining the light moving. As I stared, it started to float towards me. It grew in size to about 2 inches tall, and 6 wings of light extended out of the body of light. It floated towards me, and the sight fascinated me as I stopped crying from the distraction. As it floated towards me, I realized it was a being made of light, some type of six-winged angel, a seraphim, or a sign from Sarah. I grew scared and hid under the covers, like a child might do. I was so traumatized that I couldn't process emotion and had been behaving like a toddler might. The being of light, whatever it was, continued to slowly float towards me. As I flung the covers over my head, it hurriedly snuck under the covers with me until it was face to face with me, only a few inches away. The beauty overthrew me and had a deep emotional impact on my psyche. I was so overwhelmed by the beauty, and that this being was sharing its presence with me. I was moved to tears again. It radiated shimmering yellow, orange, green, and red light, and seemed to be sending me love through its beauty and presence. It stayed there hovering under my blankets for a few moments. I blinked and it was gone. Another phenomenon that challenged my ability to cope is one that studies show affects about 76% of NDE survivors, and that is strange electromagnetic occurrences. Not only was my MacBook and iPhone constantly on the fritz, one evening as I walked down Main Street, every street lamp that I walked past would flicker, get really bright, then suddenly shut off. As I passed, I heard the homeless people watching and remarking at this strange sight. This was a challenge because it deepened the great mystery I had just witnessed during my near-death experience. At the time, I didn't know it was a common phenomenon among near-death experience survivors. I wondered about the physical effects my near-death experience had had on me. Was I even human anymore? I wondered, or some sort of quantum being. Such thoughts did not help my sanity, and I struggled to maintain composure as the mystery deepened. Suddenly, the Bible seemed somehow to be a different book altogether. One page would have a positive, uplifting message, and the next would be a dire warning about the evil in this world, making me feel as if I'd committed some great sin by simply being human. I had never been a particularly religious man, though I had recently been baptized, and had never taken much comfort in the Bible anyway, but my near-death experience had changed that. I still wasn't religious, but my NDE has been a huge spiritual awakening, and I tried to seek comfort in the Bible. However, the mixed messages provided no comfort and inspired terrifying visions and vivid dreams at night of the apocalypse. The one place I thought I'd find understanding and comfort provided anything but, and added to my fears. Another unique challenge that came from my near-death experience was that this existence no longer felt like a reality. The other side felt more real than real, is the best way I can describe it. Coming back here feels like I'm living in a dream, and this world feels very pixelated and etheric. This is sometimes a very uncomfortable feeling, as I feel like I'm in a dream that I cannot escape. This is a challenge that few people understand. It reminds me, though, that there is more to life, and that this is a temporary existence, and that we are infinite, but it exacerbates another challenge that, again, few people can understand. I often feel like I'm in two places at once. Feeling this way can be maddening, as there is nothing that I can do about it except meditate and pray. At first, it just added to the great mystery I felt like I was supposed to unravel in solitary. toiling to understand what thousands of years of prayer and study by those more pious than me could not figure out. At first I wondered again, am I even human? Or is it that my soul stayed behind on the other side in the collective consciousness? I found comfort studying quantum physics and learning how molecules can seemingly be in two places at once. As I understand it, though, is that the soul is too big to incarnate totally here in one place, and that is what gives us access to the collective consciousness, to God, and to all that is. Hearing voices is a challenge that I still deal with. Since my near-death experience, and this goes back to what my yoga instructor and life coach taught me, and that is my near-death experience affected all those around me. My siblings also hear voices now. I believe this is just a byproduct or side effect of a psychic awakening. It was something I've prayed on so that I can hear Sarah and my spiritual helpers, but I was not expecting it to show up the way that it did. I can stand hearing positive beings and what they say, but I also hear what I call the peanut gallery. They are beings that always seem to be observing and judging me, and they are often hypercritical. They seem to show up when I'm not feeling well, depressed, or sad. I will also see images that will flash quickly on my computer screen. I've seen images of Christ-like beings and of a chalkboard that was featured in a YouTube I saw about the Zohar. That brings me to another challenge, which is always being observed. Since my near-death experience, I've realized that we are always being observed. Not only do your angels and God always observe you, but negative beings, I think the beings referred to in the Bible as the Watchers, are also always observing us and our thoughts. They're very judgmental beings and tend to show up when I'm already being challenged by health issues or depression. Realizing that I am always being observed changes how I live my life, and I often feel embarrassed or change my behavior to avoid being judged. My most private, intimate thoughts and actions are no longer private. Indeed, they never really have been. I've had to become comfortable with nothing that I do or think being private anymore. It is a blessing and a curse, as I want my angels, especially Sarah, to hear my prayers and to be aware of what I think, but I don't want to listen to judgments all the time. Although it has taught me to love myself as my angels love me, and to not be so embarrassed by my private moments, it is sometimes maddening as I feel I cannot escape being witnessed, as if my mind and body are a prison. Coping with my near-death experience has also been an emotional roller coaster. Sometimes I feel so enlightened, euphoric, and connected to God, to Sarah, and to all that is, while other times I feel so lonely and miss Sarah terribly. I miss feeling God's love that you feel on the other side so profoundly. I miss the incredible peace found on the other side where true life exists. Though it has sparked a spiritual awakening, I've had to come to accept that enlightenment is not something that you attain and then that is always there. Enlightenment is something you have to continually strive for, and that comes and goes in waves. Perhaps it would be different if I didn't have so many health challenges, but for me it is an everyday struggle to learn to be happy again and to radically accept the body that I have been given. Not only do I tolerate the issues of my near-death experience, but my family also has to deal with how my near-death experience both affects me and how it affects them. They have definitely seen a huge change in me. This is common among near-death experience survivors and their families. At first, my family didn't understand. I was suddenly talking about all these far-out spiritual ideas and concepts, but I was a changed man, and it has been a process. At first, it was really challenging for them to understand, but as time went on, and they saw the changes were mostly positive, they came to accept my near-death experience more and more. My mother, being a particularly pious and religious woman, didn't like the things I was saying, things that challenged her idea of God, Jesus, and of life itself. Soon, though, I started to see her accepting my radical ideas as I shared with her what I had been shown and what I was learning from my experience. My experience has also sparked a change in them. It has brought about a spiritual and psychic awakening for them too. So in summation, I would like to say my near-death experience has been mostly positive, as it has made me an incredibly spiritual and psychic, as well as brought me to the path of enlightenment. Though there have been many unique challenges that often left me feeling alone and misunderstood, there have been so many silver linings that I am so thankful for the opportunity to become an enlightened being and to be allowed to come back here to share what I saw. Though how it happened and how I was treated that night was incredibly traumatic, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, I thank God that I was able to meet Sarah, or to reunite with Sarah as it were, and that I was shown the true side of life. I am so thankful that I was shown that we are infinite beings and that we don't really die. My near-death experience has taught me how to be happy and to enjoy life again. Sometimes that hadn't been the case, since I was a teenager and when I became seriously ill. It has also given me purpose and given me another way to do what I enjoy most, which is helping other people. My near-death experience was so beautiful, and though there was a lot of fallout, I wouldn't change it for the world. So thank you so much for watching and listening to what it has been like to cope with my near-death experience. I do plan to do a follow-up where I interview my family and ask them what it has been like for them to cope with my near-death experience. So I hope my story has helped you in some way. I am so proud to be of service to God and to my fellow spiritual brothers and sisters. You are the reason I came back from my near-death experience to share what I saw, and I hope that it has helped you along your own spiritual journey. May you have a joyful and peaceful filled day. Namaste.